about to start the Metal Gear Solid 20th anniversary panel. Thank you. My name's Roel. I'm a longtime fan of Metal Gear Solid.
I'm Fred. You may know me from that 90s commercial panel, and I'm still an alcoholic. I'm sorry.
Yeah, and I'm Dylan, and
Louder!
yeah. Yeah, and I'm Dylan, and I'm still just some random jackass.
Sweet.
All right. Now, there's a lot of talk about auteurs in the game industry. There are people who are called auteurs. There are people who call themselves auteurs. And then there are people who abuse the term auteur. But really, when you're talking about auteurs in the game industry, there's only one name you need to know. Oh.
Yeah.
それが完全なるステージ。小島秀夫監督作品、メタルギアソリッド、インテグラ。何で全部がコナミ。
Hideo Kojima.
Okay, just to go around with his background. He was born in 1964 in Setsugai in Tokyo. He was a latchkey kid, watched a lot of TV and movies.
Obviously.
In college, he studied for economics because that was kind of the salaryman thing to do. He had a mom. The dad left really early on in his life. He died around 12. In his third year in college, he decided to become a game maker, despite what people were saying that what the game industry was back then. He wanted to be an artist because of his uncle, but his mom probably didn't want that because his uncle wasn't very successful as an artist. He was mainly influenced by Super Mario Brothers and Portopia Murder Story, which was like a mystery game. I mean, stature similar to it in gameplay format, not story.
Right. Now, with every great genius, there are a number of people that he works with, a stable, if you will. One of his best collaborators.
And lesser known collaborators is Naoki Matsui.
Which was the co-writer.
Yeah, he was basically the guy who just gave him advice on how to deal with like producers and the business aspect of Konami. He also helped him direct a few games. The last game he worked on Konami with Matsui was Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle game for the Game Boy.
Right, but we're getting ahead of ourselves, really, because we need to go back to the beginning, because he was working at Konami, and finally they gave him the opportunity to direct a game, and that led to the creation of the legendary classic
Penguin Adventure.
Now we lied a little bit because he technically co-directed this.
Yeah, so it was released in 1986 for the MSX home computer. Just to explain to someone who doesn't know what the MSX is, it was a computer standard format, much like it's similar to VHS, right? Remember VHS and Betamax, but for computers. So just to get that out of the way, it was a sequel to Antarctic Adventure, and basically it was an endless runner, and it's a game where if you beat the game without pausing, you get the good ending. If you beat it with pausing, you get the really bad and depressing ending where the Penguin Princess dies.
So even back then, he was still trying his crazy bullshit. But it couldn't be all Penguin Adventure, as history now shows. Instead, they wanted him to make a new game for the MSX, like an action game. But there's a problem with that, which is that the MSX was actually not a great system, and it actually had trouble running with more than a few enemies on screen at a time. So you can't just have endless action enemies, right? But how would he get around that? That was answered with Metal Gear 1.
Yeah, so Metal Gear 1 was a game that was codenamed N313. That was the name of the mission that Snake was sent in. It was really started as an action game, but you know, as Dylan said, it was due to technical limitations of having 3 sprites at a time. You couldn't have a really crazy action game like Contra or Atari Warriors. So Kojima envisioned this like getting inspired from from The Great Escape. If you ever watched that, it's about POWs. It's trying to escape from Nazi prison camp.
Right.
And that influenced the stealth aspect of the series.
Yeah.
And we know the story. Snake goes into outer heaven, blows up Metal Gear, and fights Big Boss. Venom Snake.
Let's just not bother with that shit.
Okay.
It's but yeah, his commander turns out to be the bad guy, and he blows him up with a rocket launcher.
Spoilers.
Oh yeah, no spoilers for this like
25 plus
25-year-old game. You see, because it's the 20th anniversary for Metal Gear Solid, which is where the series really starts. Just like how Castlevania started at Symphony of the Night. Yeah, I couldn't even say that with a straight face.
And if you remember the cover of this game, it just looks eerily familiar.
Terminator.
Thanks for spoiling it.
He's been to last year's panel. He knows it.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Now there is the cover for Metal Gear, and there is a picture, like a promo picture of Michael Biehn as Kyle Reese in Terminator 1.
Terminator.
Well, yeah, during the flashbacks, but there is going to be a lot of using images from well-recognized movies. Like this won't be the last of that. I'm assuming they just thought, hey, it's the 80s, the internet isn't really a thing much yet. We can just do this. It's like we only care about sales in Japan.
Yep. And we'll go with this more cinematic approaches to games. So games right in the next slide here.
Right. Yeah. Everyone had that experience with a book, movie, or music and the like, where you secretly say to yourselves afterward, I'm glad to have been alive and experienced this. That is entirely different from the transitory activity of passing the time. Some things have a deeper impact. I think you could call it culture. And I too have had many such experiences. I never forget the art that has moved me in this way. I'm very grateful for it. With Snatcher, I wanted to prove to myself this new medium of games could do this too. So, Snatcher.
So Snatcher was originally released in 1988 on the MSX2. It also came on in '92 on PC Engine. The only English localized version was for the Sega CD for 1994, and it cost like I think $1,000 sealed on eBay if you want to try to find it.
But for those of us that are likely to just get an emulator, like where would we search?
Yeah, I was lucky to find one at like a local game store in 2007.
Right. Now this game is a like part point-and-click adventure, part rail shooter. and this is a cyberpunk story. Now, contextually, I'm sure most of you know of this game's existence from the Jamais Vu missions in Ground Zeroes. This game is heavily inspired by Blade Runner. Heavily. Now, that image right there is the Tyrell building, and that one is the not Tyrell building in Snatcher. Also, interesting fact: this similar to using images of that they don't own the rights to. This, anyone who may notice the Japanese version, the bar right here, the PC Engine CD one, that one has the xenomorph. just enjoying some titties.
Yeah. And it's
Like next to the Guyver.
Yeah. Which David Hayter played, by the way.
Right. Yeah. And Kamen Rider.
And Dr. Sayus for some reason.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
But hey, in the localized version, you have Rocket Knight and
Simon
Rocket
Belmont,
Knight?
Contra Dudes.
yeah. But yeah, there are definitely elements of Blade Runner.
Yeah.
Obviously. But really, his next game would be going back to what we would now know as his legacy. Do you want to tell the story of how it came to be?
Yeah. This is kind of something that was dug up in reviews years ago. He was at a subway train with one of the producers of Snakes Revenge. He also produced Castlevania 3. And he basically told Kojima that we're making an unofficial sequel for your game Metal Gear, but we're fans of the original Metal Gear. Can you make a sequel because we think you can do a good job on it? And allegedly, Kojima basically created a game plan, a design doc within the day after the training, and thought of the story of Metal Gear 2 Solid Snake.
Just to counteract Snake's Revenge.
Yeah. Like later on in his career, he started bad mouthing it, but honestly, without that game, Metal Gear as it is wouldn't have probably existed.
Right. But no matter how it happened, we're here at Metal Gear 2, Solid Snake. Now, this game is where more of what we understand as the core elements of Metal Gear, the series, is known for. People are more willing to go on talking about their life story. There are twists and turns and betrayals and invisible people in elevators.
And also meeting a female partner in the bathroom.
Right. In fact, that's an interesting thing. It seems like a lot of the elements that are in Metal Gear 2 ended up being ideas that were repurposed into Metal Gear Solid for an entirely new market that didn't really get this game. Now, the story outline is very simple. Is like not as simple as Metal Gear 1, but Snake. Everyone who's played the other games knows the general gist. That this is the one that this is Zanzibar land, similar fortress nation setup. It turns out that Big Boss is controlling it, and Gray Fox, his friend and the guy who was captured in the first game, is actually working for him and is a bad guy. There's
There's like an oil algae that's never mentioned.
Oh yeah, the synthetic.
Oilix.
Yeah, there are a lot of lore elements to this story that are straight up forgotten about in Solid.
Yeah, I think it has something to do with the main one is
Yeah.
how the Soviet Union existing in 1999. This game was released right around the Berlin Wall fell, so you couldn't have predicted the future.
Whoops.
Whoops.
But you know how Metal Gear 1 had used an image from famous movie. Buckle in. Yeah. Now, these are the original MSX versions of the sprites for the codecs and stuff, because the subsistence versions since did like redos of the sprites, like designed by Yoji Shinkawa, but these are, but like Snake is Mel Gibson, Big Boss is Sean Connery. You know, Campbell's obviously. Campbell has always been Troutman. And of course, the best actor in Hollywood, Albert Einstein. Yeah, but also just straight up rips of Dolph Lundgren, Tom Berenger from Platoon, you know, Bob Hoskins. Like they just did not give a single shit.
And of course, we have our angry old friend Mel Gibson.
Right. But it would be a while before Hideo Kojima came back to the series after this, because he put out another game in between. The one that most of us know as the one where the anime cutscenes in MGS1 come from, when Otacon talks about mechs. Police Knots.
Alright, so Police Knots was released for the NEC 9821 on July 29, 1994. There were ports for PS1 and Saturn as well. Those are easier to find. He conceived this idea around 1989 when he was wrapping up Snatcher, which was inspired by one of the first Japanese-American astronauts. I think his last name was Inozuka, who was on one of the missions, and basically, in the kind of like how Japan was depicted in movies like Rising Sun, when they were like the baddies, the generic baddies in them,
Right.
as well. And also this little movie, which is also in the TV show called Lethal Weapon.
Right. Get it. I don't know what you're talking about. I don't see the similarities at all.
Except, I don't think they had Joe Pesci in the background.
Okay. You've imagined. Yeah. This game is part 80s cop action movie, but it's also like really cyberpunk, like arguably more cyberpunk than Snatcher. Like, it doesn't have the aesthetic. Like, Snatcher is 100% that 80s, aesthetic, but Blade Runner aesthetic. But this one, like, conceptually, like, just lives and breathes like William Gibson-esque, like hyper dark, like bad future cyberpunk. You know how you listen to codecs and they will be willing to go on for 10 minutes about the slightest bit of trivia about anything?
Yeah.
Now imagine that, where it's not tied to a game, like it's a point and click, so he's not bound by like anything. And he can just have that about be anything you click on. From plastic beer, how the beer cans are plastic, or the cigarettes are self-lighting smokeless cigarettes.
And he somehow explains how guns would work in space.
Yeah. Like every little bit of detail meticulously crafted, because it's about the and also it's hyper like I say, it's more cyberpunk. It is super dark in the sense of like that Gibson-esque 80s trickle down Reaganomics, like gone wrong type mentality. Like there are like you go to a party and it's like, oh, the evil rich guy party, like criminals party, and there's the women on the arms and stuff like that. But then it's revealed that you can just in minor detail see that the women are specifically made, like cloned, grown to look like like Hollywood starlets, and like as prostitutes, and they also don't talk. Like there's a lot of elements like of genetic experimentation that are just kind of in the background. I don't know. It's really interesting, and it's a really in-depth story, and it was never officially released in the West, but
you could download a patch on policemounts.net, and either you get the PS1 one or the Saturn one. I'd recommend a Saturn one because that's the definitive version of it.
Yeah, it was fan localized.
Yeah, it was fan localized by a few people I know.
Yeah, and it was, but it's a very good localization, and if you are interested in checking back on some of Kojima's earlier filmography,
Demography.
you can see how I get confused.
Yeah.
But it's certainly worth checking out. I've gushed about it enough, so let's move on to what would be his next project. Back when it was called Metal Gear 3.
All right. To explain this picture here, this is a picture of Solid Snake. He looks more like Tom Berenger here, and this thing, that's Meryl on the right. This is like a flashback picture in Police Knots.
It was before they made him decided to make him look like Christopher Walken.
Yeah, and had the body of Van Damme.
Yeah. No, like there's concept art of both Liquid and Solid Snake looking like Christopher Walken from like the Dead Zone.
Oh my god.
Like that same level of weird eyes, like it's weird. But how did this? Because they decided let's do Metal Gear 3. How did the development go? How did it lead to Metal Gear Solid?
The specs for the PS1 were leaked, and Kojima basically looked at it and hey, I could make this game in really good 3D and really well-made 3D environment.
Yeah, and here's the timeline.
Yeah. So back in '93, it wasn't called Kamali Computer in Japan. It was called Dev Team 5. Unfortunately, they're called Dev Team, I think they're called Development Team 8 now, after all the Konami brouhaha.
Oh.
We'll get to that.
We'll get to that. And in '94, April '94, the lead programmer and Shikawa were hired. Shikawa previously worked with Kojima on Police Knots. He did the lighting and some of the 3D art for the PS1 version. In around summer '94, Shikawa made this resin model in his apartment, and it took about a month to make for concept art. Literally, he made a model
of Rex.
Yeah, and it was a garage kit. It was a kit bash.
Yeah, and then, but in '95.
Yeah, unfortunately, in January 7th, 1995, the Great Hanshin earthquake occurred. Pretty much destroyed Konami's offices.
Devastated.
Yeah.
Yeah. So they relocated to Tokyo from Kobe.
Yeah.
And then in '96,
KCEJ was formed, also known as Konami Computer Entertainment Japan, also known as the first iteration of Kojima Productions.
right? And then they began working on the localization in '98.
and in September 3rd, 1998, Japanese release of MGS came out. There's some notes here. According to the assistant director, Matsuhuna, the dock wasn't originally planned, and they used it as a tutorial so they could reinforce that this is a stealth game. And so you would basically start at the freaking heliport if they didn't know that.
Right.
Never saw people from trying to play it as an action game though.
Yeah, and here's just a selection of some of the key devs here.
Obviously Hideo Kojima, and then Yoshizaku Masuhana. Let's see. You want to?
Yeah. Okay. Producers Kazumi Kitawe and Akihiro Nagata.
Hey everybody, do you want to hear us butcher Japanese names? All right, let's do this.
All right. Writer is Hideo Kojima. I don't know why that's.
Yeah, and Tomosaku Fukushima.
Yeah. The lead programmer was Kazunobu Uehara.
Yeah.
Designer Shinkawa, obviously.
Yeah.
And
This was like his first really big
project. Yeah.
like look at my awesome art Yoji Shinkawa game,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, it's like the same thing with Nomura, with FS6 to FS7, basically.
Right.
And localization, Jeremy Boston, which is which we'll get to it later.
Yeah.
Way later.
Okay.
Very-
Because the localization is actually really interesting.
Yeah.
And we're just gonna have like pictures.
Oh
here.
yeah, we have the.
Okay. And just a little bit typical about Shinkawa. He went to the Art University of Kyoto. He likes Yoshitaka Amano. That's one of his Japanese artists. Hikozu Ito of the Showa era also, and Frank Miller and Mobius.
Yeah. I can definitely see the Mobius in his work.
And at this project for MGS, Kojima gave him a lot of freedom.
Yeah, well, I mean, so much free range that he is the sole person responsible for the Cyborg Ninja. Like, the Cyborg Ninja was not planned, and he just came in with this cool design. And they're just like, cool, let's just throw that into the game. I don't know, how about it's Gray Fox? Yeah, it's Gray Fox, it's good, let's go,
Yes.
do it.
My favorite Grey Wars.
Hence why Gray Fox actually has so little to do with the story.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I know, right? You never thought about it. Yeah, he just shows up and dies.
And then he appears in Metal Gear Solid 4 as a plot point, but that doesn't really matter there either. Yeah, it's cool.
Yeah,
That's
cool.
it.
And Kazunori Uehara, the main programmer, according to him, this is from Strategy Guide, the official Millennium Guide. There was only 1 megabyte of system RAM for the PS1, so the game took 700 kilobytes of RAM. 400K were for textures, 200K for sound, 120K for speech. Snake's animation was 150K, so that was a problem. Originally, they were going to intend to have him carry all his weapons, like Phantom Pain, where you see Venom with all his guns, like rocket launcher and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But they had to cut that out because of memory limitations.
So just to clarify, how big is MGS1? Like, how big was it?
You mean this?
Yeah.
It was on 2 CDs.
Right, well, yeah, but I mean, the program was...
700 kilobytes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like you could fit that program into your iPhone and it wouldn't do a thing.
It's like a Super Nintendo disc.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Small cartridge.
Yeah, but that's just the program. We're not talking about the voice data. The voice data took a bunch of the space for obvious reasons.
Oh.
Yeah.
What the bosses in there, the models and everything.
Yeah. That's all it took.
Yeah,
What?
They were that low poly.
yeah.
That's crazy.
And then we have Tomokazu Fukushima, which they have this theory that when he left, the writing of the series kept going down. But I just think Kojima just got bored of working on the series and was trying to put original ideas from the series. And
Yeah.
Kind of.
Well, because he left
Yeah.
after 3, right?
Right. He left after 3, and I think he currently.
And then
works at-
4 happened.
Yeah. 4 happened. Yeah.
Well, we won't get to that.
Well, yeah. This is just one panel after all.
Right.
Right.
So then now, here's the interesting part, is localization. Because you may not know this, the Western version is actually considered the better version of Metal Gear Solid 1.
Yes. Why?
Of
course.
There are a number of things that were added, and little tidbits and elements of writing that were introduced in MGS 1 in the US version that weren't in the Japanese version. All forms of the military lingo.
Yeah. Like weapons and equipment, OSP.
Yeah.
I'll let you decide on the best COA.
Yeah.
Honestly, this was a bunch of BS that Jerry made it sound like military sounding.
Yeah. But they didn't use any military lingo in the Japanese version.
They did, but it was like different.
Right.
Yeah.
But yeah, there are a lot of differences, and this guy, Jeremy Blostein, was the head of the localization. He did a lot to make it translate really well to the U.S. He also did a couple things that we'll get to once we have the clip.
Yeah. Sure.
Also,
he did this little thing.
It's not by my hand that I was given flesh. I was called here by humans who wish to pay me tribute. Tribute? You steal men's souls and make them your slaves.
Say it with everybody.
Your words are as empty as your soul. Mankind ill needs a savior
such as you.
What is a man?
Yeah. Like we should have just said, we should have just said everybody now, because everyone knows this by heart.
All right, and this is MGS1, the whole topic of this panel. It was released in Japan on September 3rd, 1994, and October 21st, 98. There was also a remake, Twin Snakes on GameCube, that came out March 9th, 04.
We'll talk more about that.
We'll talk more about that. It's kind of interesting.
But let's talk about one of the important aspects that really stuck with people about with MGS1, which is really trying to say something. It had themes, you know?
Yeah, genes have always come up in this game. I mean, even in the latest, well, not that latest, in Metal Gear Rising, I mean, Monsoon is always talking about, memes of DNA of the soul, and, it's pretty much always talking about, nature versus nurture, is your, destiny set out in front of you by your DNA, and, this is something, it's supposed to make the players think. But, as someone who goes to San Jose State and actually studies genetics, Kojima does not know much about this stuff. I mean, he says, it's Liquid who's wrong about the DNA and how recessiveness and dominance works, but come on, Kojima. Just man up and take your hit.
Okay, how exactly is he wrong though? Let's actually
Right.
Is this
So
interesting to talk about? Or?
Are you telling me an arm can't possess a man?
After reading JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, I think I know where the inspiration came from.
nanomachines are magic. That's all you have to think about. But with dominance and recessiveness, it doesn't dictate whether you're better or weaker. Well, not all the time, but that's upper division genetic stuff. I'm not going to go into it because I can't.
What do you mean? Anyone with blonde hair is inherently weaker.
They are, but for
it's a
different
recessive
reasons.
gene.
Okay. Yeah. Let's go.
Sorry.
Yeah, sorry.
Sorry.
Sorry for the
Sorry,
blonde
Dan.
people
Nobody's
in
sorry.
this room. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
What you bench, bro?
Yeah, but here's the one of the important reasons that we got the better version there are Kojima-isms in the Western version that are not written by Kojima. I know what you're thinking. What the hell is he talking about? Now, anyone who's really into movies, right, might have recognized a certain line in the fight with Sniper Wolf in MGS 1. Yeah, play it. Okay.
What's in your love letter?
There's no time.
You know what a love letter is? It's a bullet to my fucking gun, fucker. You receive a love letter from me, you're fucked forever.
I told you, I never lean on. That's why.
Wolf, no, you can't.
Don't get between a wolf and its prey.
You're pretty good at fighting in this storm.
You see, women naturally make better soldiers.
Wolf, don't do this.
Snake, I'm near. Can't you sense me near you?
It's a mistake for a sniper to reveal our location.
Show them, my dear. Do you know what that is? It's a bullet straight from my gun to your heart.
Blue velvet.
Sounds a lot more sultry when it's not shouted by Dennis Hopper. For anyone that doesn't know, that previous clip was the David Lynch movie Blue Velvet. Really, personally, my favorite David Lynch movie.
I'm more of a Eraserhead fan.
Right, but still, but I digress. The that line in MGS1 was not written that is a movie reference. Is a movie reference not written by Hideo Kojima. That was written by Jeremy Blaustein. I know, right? The idea that there is a movie reference in a Hideo Kojima game that was not specifically from Hideo Kojima himself is insane.
Alright, let me go over some of the other localization tidbits. According to Jeremy, this was in a Harper Gaming 101 interview. You can look it up. There's a lot of interesting stuff in there. The reason why Mei Ling and Naomi have accents, you know how Mei Ling had that really thick fob accent?
Yeah.
It was there so you could differentiate between the female cast because most of it's conveyed through codecs screens and stuff.
And that's why Mei Ling talks like a stereotype, even though she grew up in Hawaii.
Yeah, she grew up in Hawaii and she studied at MIT. So I expect more like a Boston slang or something.
Yeah.
It's wicked.
And Jeremy also researched to get all those military terms. He researched novels by Dick Marchenko. This was like a guy who was a Navy SEAL. The books are called SEAL Team 6. If you never heard of them.
Oh, for anyone that also may recognize that name, Dick Marcino, and not remember what it's from, he's the guy that, his novels are what that Mickey Rourke game, Rogue Warrior, are based on. Yeah. No, he doesn't even rap, but they take all of Mickey Rourke's half awake different gameplay line readings and then just string them together into a rap. It's a soundboard rap of Mickey Rourke half drunk in a recording studio.
He wasn't half drunk. It's Mickey Rourke. He was fully drunk.
Yeah. Now, clearly, we'll cover this more in depth in our Rogue Trooper panel.
Alright, anyways.
Clearly, in the bigger room.
Anyways,
everyone's clamoring for that.
Anyways, besides the top tier localization, we also got top tier voice acting for the English version, as well as the Japanese version, because there's a lot of seiyuu from a lot of anime you've probably watched.
Right.
Okay, we obviously have David Hayter.
Good God.
He wrote Guyver. He was in Guyver 2. He wrote X-Men. He directed Wolves.
Wrote Watchmen.
He wrote
A version
of Watchmen, which actually
Alan Moore.
Alan Moore actually liked because he's always
I thought he liked the Sam Hamm version.
No, he didn't.
Oh, yeah.
I think he hated it.
Yeah.
There was also Paul Eiding, who's also from Ben 10.
Uncle.
Uncle.
I want to say Uncle Owen, but I know that's
Star Wars.
Star Wars.
The uncle. The uncle. He usually plays.
I never watched Ben 10.
He usually plays mentor old guys. So
Right.
and he was like the narrator in Diablo, if you remember. He's and the Japanese version was played by Takeshi Ano. He was in Trigun, Ninja Gaiden, and JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. The original iteration of it, not
The OVA, the
OVA.
90s OVA.
And Snake was also done by Akira Tsuka. He was also Ghost in the Shell. He was Bato. He was also in the Japanese dub of Bad Boys. He was dubbed over Will Smith.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep, shit just got real.
Yeah, he's a lot of these guys are still doing work today. Akio Otsuka actually recently did a character in the new anime this season, Golden Kamuy. So like a lot of these guys are still working.
Yeah. Next up is Kim My Guest, who played Mei Ling. I found this picture from. You ever played the PS1 version of Warhawk? She was the commander who yelled orders in the full meeting. And that's her.
Yeah. In Warhawk.
In Warhawk. Yeah. Akuo Kumoshima, she played Kasumi in their Live 1 to 3. She was Android 21 in DBZ Fighter Z. And she was the one of the orbital frames in the Zone of the Enders anime. Meryl is played by Debbie Mae West. She's Tsunade in the English dub of Naruto and in Heroes of the Storm.
Yeah.
Okay. And you got Doug Stone. He's in a lot of anime. And he was, and the Japanese counterpart was Kazuyuki Sogabe. He was in Fist of the North Star.
And Dragon Ball Z.
The Dragon Ball Z Kai. And then
Only Kai.
Only Kai from my notes here. And then we have Vulcan Raven, who was played by Peter Lurie. And I lost the notes for the Japanese Seiyu somehow. And more.
And more. Yeah, but enough playing IMDb
Trivia here.
trivia. Let's talk about
Twin Snakes.
Yeah. Now, who's played Twin Snakes? Woo! Yeah, get a lot of you.
Appropriate ringtone.
All right. So, Twin Snakes was developed by Silicon Knights, a studio that no longer exists. They did Legacy of Kain, and T-Human, which was in development hell forever, and they got in a lawsuit with Epic and stuff. We're not going to go with talk about that. The whole reason why it came into fruition was because Miyamoto and Iwata were like at a cafeteria with Dennis Dyack, and then they talked to him. Kojima wants you to do a Metal Gear game for GameCube, and he said yes. Basically, that's what happened, and that's why it was made.
Yeah. This was as we know, is using a lot of elements that they learned from doing Metal Gear 2. Metal Gear Solid 2.
Yeah, and the cutscenes were directed by Riki Kitamura, and they're over the top and crazy. Devil May Cry BS.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about that, because what's everyone's opinion on the cutscenes?
Over the top. Awesome. This little jump right here.
Yeah.
Way too matrixy.
All right.
Yeah. All of these are valid statements.
Also, the gameplay was pretty broken, as we can see here.
Right. Yeah. Let's show the Ocelot fight.
Yeah.
Oh.
Okay.
This is
Oh
god.
Yeah.
You're pretty good.
I mean, I'm not a speedrunner. This is actually me playing the game.
He's just really shy.
That's also localized. That was from Apocalypse Now.
So you have to run around and chase him down and shoot him unless he's reloading.
Yeah.
Shouldn't he just?
We can't.
Yeah, that's my one.
Just run to the middle, end it all.
Yeah, it is pretty rad. It's rad. It's already too late. You know, we have like 5 minutes left.
Yeah.
Okay. You know what?
You know what?
Because we can't skip through the footage faster.
Tell you what happened.
Yeah. Is there any way?
No, there's no time limit.
There's no. That's read this.
Yeah.
It's right there. You think we get to it?
No, it's restore down. So.
Just show the end of this clip.
Yeah.
Here's
Here's the Twin Snakes. And here's Twin Snakes.
Yeah.
And I'm already having a quarter in Fanime right now.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, but you can go for reverse.
Look at how much help
Yeah.
It's a paradox.
Well, I mean, do you want to talk about the cutscenes? Because everyone knows the it's the 360 no scope.
Well, this is one I kind of like in Twin Snakes. You already know this one. It's kind of super serious in the first one. All right. No, here. Yeah, this is the part I kind of like in Twin Snakes, where Ocelot's kind of like pissing off, trolling shit out of Sniper Wolf.
Yeah.
Because how how Sniper Wolf plays with her prey, basically.
So does Ocelot. Like, do you think they both like him? You know, in that weird way?
I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
All right. Okay.
Yeah.
And then Impact.
But really, like, we've had our fun, but we're getting the signals to wrap this up. So let's talk about the impact of this basically revitalizing and popularizing the entire stealth genre.
Yeah.
That you had all the games that were forgotten, like Winback,
Robots.
yeah, or Dark Mission, like Siphon Filter,
Yeah.
all the way to ones that,
Good, like Hitman.
yeah,
All right, we got to wrap it
Siphon
up.
Filter was great. I loved it.
right, but we got to wrap it up now.
And if you want prizes, this week
Yeah, well, they're bad prizes, so there's
Yeah.
not anymore. So, yeah. All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
very much
Yes.
for coming by,
Right.
and so we could show
Yeah.
weird ass little tidbits.
Okay, we got to show this first, though.
Oh.
The gift of the rest.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, last. At least show them that.
Right.
Yeah.
Faster.
Do